Welcome to In This Body, the online event to support parents and caregivers with staying regulated and connected even when things get intense. And today I'm really honored to have Gaby Haas with us. Gaby began her teaching career right out of college, teaching third grade and then visually impaired children for many years. She advanced to a VP of Education and eventually an executive director. After 26 years at the Blind Children's Learning Center, she returned to graduate school to earn a master's degree with an emphasis in depth psychology and leading the creative life. This was followed by a 2-year certification in dream tending, also from Pacifica Graduate Institution in Southern California. For the past 5 years, Gaby has revived her passion for working with children, and she began teaching in the Global School for Star Children. She's currently also teaching locally at her grandchildren's Waldorf school in Orange County. She hopes to inspire children and young adults with the magic and wisdom found in dreams. Hi, Gaby. I'm so honored to have you here.
Well, I'm so happy to be here. As you can tell from my bio, I'm a certified elder now. and I've just recently returned to working with children and kind of come full circle, although I do a lot of work with adults as well. And I think I've just found my passion.
Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what? I was so inspired by that last bit where you were actually invited to teach just recently at a Waldorf school. And you know what? I'm gonna invite you to start talking about that. Like, what did you actually teach? How was that experience?
Well, I'd sort of given up on working with children, although I do work with the Star Children school. And sure, as soon as you give up and you open up your magnetic, there came a call from a teacher saying, "Hey, I'm teaching a unit on physiology, which is where my connection with the body here comes in." And she said, and we're doing a sleep study, and the children are doing sleep journaling, and they started asking, well, what about dreaming? What about dreaming while you sleep? And so that's how she knew of my work, and she called me. And so the last 3 weeks, I've been working with 27 13-year-olds, which was a challenge right there, but it was so wonderful. And I did just 6-hour sessions until the end of school, which just ended. And I learned a lot because up to this point, I've done all my dream work on Zoom with the Global School for Star Children. And I've been really wanting to work with children in person. And the Waldorf School is so open to the spirituality and the new earth, which I feel this is where my children's work comes in. I feel like it's our children and grandchildren who are going to be inhabiting the new earth. And my goal was to just get them awakened to their dreams and
Mm.
pay attention to them. That was really the goal of the course. And I also wanted to use my techniques of dream tending, which is me helping people look at their dreams and go to a greater depth, like in-depth psychology. And with children, it's often animals in their dreams who become their guides and allies. But we worked with other figures as well. And It was the challenge was that 13-year-olds are very linear and really into, the world as they're living it. So it was a challenge to get them to think symbolically and archetypally. And but as they did their work with me, they were pretty willing to go deep. And we did art at the end of it. We did a soul collage that they each did from a dream. And there they stayed pretty concrete, you know. If they had a dream about a tarantula, they wanted a picture of a tarantula. So, but I think in the whole, it was a real success. And the teacher actually let me know that she's going to try to get me back next year. So,
Yeah, yeah. Wow, wonderful.
yeah,
Congratulations on that.
thank you.
Uh, I want to know more about what do you mean by dream tending, especially for those who are listening and they're wondering, what is it exactly? Maybe we can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, if you go back to our Western way of dealing with dreams, you go back to Freud and Jung, and it was really dream interpretation. The client would come with a dream, and the therapist would tell them what the dream meant. Now, intending, I don't interpret the dream, but I help you with questions and details of the dream so that you, the dreamer, can figure out what's going on in the dream. And especially when it comes to um, finding guidance in your dreams, not so much meaning per se, but guidance for both your daily earthly work as well as your spiritual path. So it takes, usually with an adult, I spend about an hour and a half. They tell me to dream, and they always have to have the dream written so
Hmm.
that they remember the details. As a matter of fact, that's the first thing I teach the children. You have to start a dream journal. You have to write down the dream. And then they tell me the dream, and then we start doing a series of my teacher used to say it's like going down an elevator. You go deeper and deeper into the dream, and you use depth psychology language. You start with, well, what do you think is going on with the dream? What's going on in your life? Then you go to, well, what's kind of the archetype in the dream? And how does that relate to what you're going into? And then we get deeper and we start doing what Jung would call active imagination.
Hmm.
And you call in one of the figures in your dream, and with children, it's often an animal, and you bring them into the here and now, like into the imagination. And then you start having a dialogue with the dream figure, and it's the one figure that you're most curious about. And I tell them it can be an animal, it can be a person, it can be a desk, it can be a phone, it can be anything, but you treat them as though they're a life entity. And then once you have the conversation, then often the dream becomes not just your personal dream, but kind of a world dream.
Hmm.
And people right now, in this kind of tough time that we're living in, are having more and more of these world dreams. I belong to a dream symposium where we share dreams, and it's uncanny. Like we'll meet once a month, and everybody had a water dream. So there's something about the collective, the oneness that we share, not just with people, but with nature. And that's where the new earth is going. The more connection we have with the one, with the all, the more we learn from our dreams. So, and that's part I'm really excited about. One of the things that blew me away from the children, and these were all like seventh graders, they're all 13 or so, how many of them remembered recurring dreams that they had when they were younger? Sometimes nightmares, sometimes ordinary dreams. And even though some of them said, "Oh, I never remember my dream or my dreams," they would remember these dreams they had when they're really little. And that was, for me, was just such a revelation.
Wow.
And of course, they want to know, well, where did these dreams come from? And I just, of course, in-depth psychology, we say the psyche, brings it in. But if you go to a spiritual level, who knows where it's coming from? And we always start to dream tending with the question, who's visiting today?
Mm.
So right
Wow.
away, you set the bar for this is an entity a life entity that you're working with.
Yeah, yeah. It's really amazing. Uh, Sometimes dreams can be so, so powerful. And I personally believe that it's a way that something, beyond our world is trying to communicate with us. And it's it's or it's like our deep, deep subconscious is trying to communicate with us.
Yeah.
Uh, and if it's okay, I'd also like to share why I really feel that this dreams are so powerful. Um, I There was a mo stage in my life where I was kind of really not living in alignment. Let's say I was like overworking myself, not taking care of my body, uh, completely just, distracted, getting on with my day as if I was stuck in so many overwhelm and I couldn't see. And I was reacting like I was very emotionally volatile. And at that time, I had very severe p- pain in my back. And I completely ignored, like I was ignoring it. And then I had a dream and I remember it so, so vividly. I was working in the kitchen and my kids were playing in the living room. And I look like that and I see a huge snake, like a red brownish snake, come in through the living room. And I hear my kids scream, and the snake goes all the way to the kitchen straight up to me. And I'm like, I'm frozen. I can't do anything. And the snake just goes up and it's like it looks at me from up and it goes down and bites me right on my shoulder. And at that moment in the dream, I know that I just died in front of my kids, that the snake really devoured me in front of my kids. And I woke up and like there's this huge pain in my shoulder where the snake actually bit me. It was like unbelievable. And then I realized two things the moment I woke up, that first, I can't leave my back pain anymore. That's it. Like I had to pay attention and start taking care of myself. And second, I Googled what does snake mean, and that led me down the uh, the spirit animals, the divine feminine, the shamanic part of things, and it completely changed my life. And I started learning all these modalities and going down that path. So uh, to now, like I consider that snake as my guide who woke me up,
Yeah.
who,
Yeah.
who told me, stop, stop, that's it.
Yeah.
Because I realized the snake showed me that I was ruining my life in front of my kids instead of, I was thinking that I was being busy and working for them, but I was not. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would call that a big dream.
Mm, yes.
One
Yeah.
that you really needed to pay attention to. And one of the units we did when I was doing my studying was medicinal dreams,
Mm,
where actually kind of the archetype of the snake and the bite was almost like getting homeopathic medicine,
Mm.
that you needed at that point. And since I did my training, I've gotten more and more into the shamanic part of the work. And I will do, in addition to dream work, I'll do a shamanic journey with the children or the adults. And just as an added layer of what it means. As a matter of fact, I'm writing a book right now for young adults and children, and it's just about animals. It's called The Power of Dream Animals. And each animal I have speak from their soul, from their beingness, so that when, say, you have a dream about a snake, you can look up snake. And I always look kind of at the benevolent part of the animal and what this animal is really teaching you by coming into your dream. And hopefully the book will be out in the next year, but it's slow
Yay.
coming.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about it. Like, we need these kind of books. We need
Yeah,
them. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Um, to bring that, I call it magic, that magic back into our families and into our kids, because like kids are so impacted by their dreams. You were just saying that you were surprised that they could even remember dreams they had when they were 5 or 4.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the dreams that I started with when I started working with children was my granddaughter had a dream during COVID when we were sheltered. And in the dream, she got kind of taken away by a shark. And she was really scared and she didn't know where it was going. And the shark was taking her back to school in the water towards the school. But just before they got to the school, the shark turned into a mermaid. And so there was this wonderful thing that happened in her dream that was like magic.
Mm.
And then she was really happy to be back at school because I think our children, I know at least here in North America, had a really hard time during COVID. And I ended up having them a lot right here in my yurt to do like home teaching. But we forget as parents and grandparents, we know how it affected us, but we forget how hard it was for the kids. And so to bring that magic back is crucial, you know.
Mm, mm, mm. So, what if the dream is a bit disturbing, like it's more on a scary part and it doesn't end well for kids?
Usually, what we do, and we did a whole unit on nightmares when I was taking my training, you find a way to befriend the scary part. And this comes out of dream work from the Aboriginals and dream work in Malaysia, where they worked with dreams for ages, is you start to not see the scary part, but you start to see like you start to see what the snake brought to you, which was huge, in terms of a change for you. So that's how I would work with a nightmare figure. And if it doesn't go there, then we'll just let it go. You don't have to have this figure in your life. So
Mm.
it's quite magical. There's a book that we used when I was studying this called A Monster Calls, and it's also a film, and it's a really good example of how you can work with the scary part. It was one of my favorite books that we did at Pacifica when I was studying.
Yeah, I've actually read that book, When a Monster Calls. I think the author was Patrick Ness, if I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah,
mistaken.
yeah.
Yeah, I've actually read it. I love that book. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a really good book for parents to read so
Mm,
that they can understand the usefulness of a nightmare.
mm. Yeah, yeah. Uh, I'm curious on what drew you to dream tending? Right, why did you decide to?
You know, it's interesting. I'm part Indonesian and part Dutch. And so I kind of have an indigenous side of myself and my family. And we actually got exiled out of Indonesia when I was just a toddler and went to Holland and lived there till I was 13. And I just have memories of having breakfast before we went to school. And my mom would always ask us, well, what did you dream last night? So dreaming became a real natural event every day that we would
Mm,
talk about. And to the parents, I would say how important it is to have those conversations. You know, what did you dream? And then talk about them. You don't have to tend them. You just have to help them realize that we all dream. And as a matter of fact, right now the dream groups I'm in, we talk a lot about at this particular time on the planet how important it is for people to share their dreams. And
mm,
it doesn't matter if you do a session on it. It just matters that you're even sharing it. And like you telling people this dream about the snake, and it's going to have some of your audience go, "Oh, I had a dream about, such and such," and then talk to their family or talk to their kids about that dream. So it's really a collective event,
mm,
and we can use that, in our evolution. Um, and then I got a lot of I don't know, for some reason I got on a mailing list. This is before email. A mailing list from Pacifica, and they kept having these events around dream tending. And so, like for 25 years, I would get these. And I had um, I had a meningioma, which is it's a brain tumor, but it was benign. And this was in 2012. And scary event, right? Um, but it was fine. I went to the hospital. They took the brain tumor, they removed it. It wasn't cancer. But I had gone through a period of really experiencing brain damage,
mm,
because the meningioma pushes on the brain, even though it's in the meninges. Anyway, and at the same time, my marriage was falling apart. So I just came out of that experience and went, oh my God, I got to use my brain. And I'd always wanted to go to graduate school. And Jung talks a lot about synchronicity. Yeah.
mm,
So I was at a party it was Easter, I think, at my sister's house. And her brother in law was talking about that he just started at Pacifica, which is in the same town where my sister lived. And I was there that weekend we had inherited a beach condo in that town from our mom who had died. And my sister had asked if she and her daughter could buy out my brother and myself to so that they could make it a Airbnb and, make, because anyway. And I just went, oh my God, I've always wanted to go to Pacifica. And these two things, were dovetailing on each other. And I found out how much money I was going to get from the house sale. And I applied and I got accepted. And the money I got from my mom's place was exactly enough for 2 years to get a master's. And I went, you know what? I need to use my brain. That's something that, I had lost some ability to think straight or be aligned. So that's how I got to Pacifica. And then the second year, when it was almost over, Stephen Eisenstadt, who became my mentor, was came and did a demonstration in our class about dream tending. And we had to like pull a number if we wanted to be it. Well, anyway, I got chosen, and he worked with me um, in front of my whole class. And I had just found my mentor, and I was just like, okay, I got to do this. So that's how I got into the dream tending part. But dreaming had always been pretty important in my life.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It's
And it's
amazing how.
funny, almost everybody in my dream tending group had a similar story, like how they got called to do the work. So
Mhm.
magic.
It's yeah, the way magic works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I love what you said around you finding your mentor and how sometimes it just takes one person for us to meet to spark all that magic inside us.
Yeah. Well, I had been a light worker for many, many years, so I had a really strong foundation in the spiritual realm. And so this was just a natural fit, to do
Mm,
this work. Yeah.
mm, mm. Um, it, how we can pay it forward to our kids.
Well, I would say um, the beginnings of it are the conversations that you have with your kids. Ask them, did they have a dream? Would they like to talk about it? Could be in the breakfast table, which usually is harried in our house, but it could be for a walk in nature somewhere and talk about it. And then encourage them to start writing it down if they're, and the way we write it in our journals is in present tense. Like for you, it would be I'm in my kitchen, I look out of the window, I see this snake, because that brings you right back into your dream. And
Mm,
then it's not a past tense event. The other thing that happens when you're writing it, and I tell my clients this all the time, it could be just a snippet. You might have a little bit of the dream, but you don't have the details. And the more you write it down, the more details come. Or a snippet's enough to work with, you know.
mm,
Like in some ways, your dream was a snippet. The snake coming in, the snake biting you, you dying. That's pretty quick. And some people
mm,
remember all the details in the dream, and some don't. Um, but the most important thing is that the journal is next to you in your bed with a pen or a pencil. And as soon as you wake up, you write it down what you remember. And even if it's just a snippet, I've gone back to my dreams and went, oh, yeah. And then there was this guy who, oh, I forgot about that. Um, so many people say I don't remember my dreams, and so they they really forget about them, so it's got to be intentional. And you can even go to bed or tell your child to go to when you're before you go to sleep, you say, please send me a dream that I will remember.
Mhm.
And
Mm.
with some of the older kids, if they can't write it down, I tell them to record it on their phone, if they have a
Mm.
phone, and or a little recorder, and then write it down later. But just so you have it in writing or in or audit or the auditory at least.
Yeah, yeah. Uh, I love writing down. Uh, I've not kept a dream journal, although I do remember when I was very young, I used to keep a diary and I would write sometimes nice
Mhm.
dreams which
Yeah.
I had. I do remember that I used to do that, but yeah. Um,
Well, and it's really fun to go back to it, you know.
mm,
And what I was thinking when I listened to your intro to this retreat, and the fact that it's about body and embodiment, and I thought, how does that align with dreams? And I have a saying in my dream work, which is, your body knows.
mm,
And one way your body can tell you about it is in a dream. So it's that directly connected, whether it's your subconscious or your psyche or something from out there, your body knows. And so listen, pay attention.
yeah, yeah. We need to repeat that. Your body knows.
Your
It's
body
like
knows.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's the best mantra out there. Yeah.
Truly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I recommend that they work with somebody, the parents especially, work with someone um, who does this kind of work that I do. We're rare still, but it's happening more and more. And what I did with the seventh graders was I kind of gave them a template for how to work with your dream so you can go deeper and
Hmm.
deeper. But that's a lot to learn. Um, and if people go look at my website, they'll see how I do that with people.
Y
So that's an
yeah.
option.
Yeah. And
And I can work both Zoom or in person.
yes, I will include the link to your website below this recording. And yeah, I invite everyone to go check it out. And if you feel interested in such thing, then there is something, there is a spark.
Yeah, yeah. And there is a book, I don't know if it's in print anymore, but Eisenstedt does have a book on dream tending. Um, and I have a friend that wrote a book. I'll put these on my website so people have.
Okay.
And like you did, really helped, just Google the animal or the whatever it is and see the symbology of it or the, uh, how that person or thing can be a guide for you. That's really helpful. I do that. I have a lot of books of animal books, for example, and the shamanic books are the best, because they go right for the soul. And
Mm, mm, mm. I actually wanted to ask specifically about animals. Like, why are animals so, let's say, they're one of the most, magic, sparkling things in a kid's life? Uh, Maybe you just speak more about that. Uh,
well, I can tell you one of my experiences that has been unforgettable. And it wasn't a dream per se, it was more like a shamanic journey or what I call a waking dream. Do you ever go for a walk in the park and you see a squirrel and you're just mesmerized, and all of a sudden you have this conversation with the squirrel, or you have this idea about what might be like to be a squirrel? I call that a waking dream. It's like you get into the dream state, but you're walking in the park. So I had a cat. I'm a cat person. So I had a cat named Soleil, and he was a black cat with like these golden eyes. That's why I named him Soleil. Like the sun was in his eyes. And he was so truly my ally, my guide. Um, and when I had my tumor, my brain tumor, I would be recovering at home, and the surgery had happened right across my kind of forehead, right right this area. And so when I first came home from the hospital, I couldn't do a whole lot, and I would lay on my bed and my cat would lay on that part of my head, and I went, oh my God, it's my healing cat. It's just amazing. And he did that for, a couple of weeks after I came out of the hospital. And then I don't know how many years later, he died in my arms. As a matter of fact, he died in this yurt that is my sanctuary in my arms. I had no idea why he died. And I was devastated. I mean, this cat was so much a part of me. Anyway, so then I started doing my grief work with him, and actually, my grandkids and my son were part of it. We did ritual, buried him. And so, might have been a year later, I did a shamanic journey kind of with that I do fairly regularly. And usually my cat is part of the journey because he's become one of my guides. And so I'm in this cave, and there were other people or beings that were my guides. And we were doing, I didn't know this, but we were doing a saying goodbye for me to say goodbye to my cat. And there was this ritual that went on, and my cat got wings. And as he got wings, he started going up to the heavens. Up, there was this big hole in the cave that he started, and I'm like, no, no, I don't want you to go. And he looked at me and he said, I'll always be with you. Just call on me.
Mm.
And to me, that's the power of an animal. You know,
Wow.
we're in this life for a short time together, maybe not, maybe just a dream. But that was so poignant to have Soleil say that to me. And still to this day, if I really need him, I just call him in.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's pretty, like you say, magical. There's not a better word for it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's amazing how it just the presence of, fairy friends and just uh, there's this ow and what's the word? Innocence, like innocent joy and pleasure that you get just from being around animals.
Yeah.
And yeah, uh, m- I mean, my kids, they would any grumpy day, just taking them to the park and seeing the squirrels and the pigeons, and it would just change completely the way they feel. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a wonderful book out that Jocelyn often um, advises us to read, and it's called "The Time of the Black Jaguar."
Yeah, yeah. I think Touching the Black Jaguar uh, by Here, I'll Google it. Uh, it's by Arkan Ashwala, I think. If
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, that book is so um, informative about the time we're going into. We're already there, but we're going into this time. That's and how
Yeah,
important the jaguar is for that, for our
yeah,
time.
yeah. It's an amazing animal ally. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah. To wrap it up, like I just want to say, we're creating the future by actually dreaming it now.
There you go.
Uh,
Yeah,
and how like important is to have the dreams, just having the dreams by itself.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Eh,
yeah. And it's about energy, you know. I know
mm,
that you'll be have a lot of people in your retreat who will be talking about energy. And the dream is just another form of energy that comes in. And if you can be conscious of that energy, it can be incredibly helpful in your own growth and evolution and the world, you know.
mm, mm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, thank God I'm an optimist because otherwise I'd be so depressed right now. But
Yeah,
we're making it through this, you know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So thank you so much, Gaby.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Yeah. Any last words you'd like to share?
Um, make it fun, you know. Make paying attention to your dreams fun. It's there's so much play in it. And then the other thing that I do with the kids, and I do it with adults too, is we do some earthing of the dream. And it could be like with this group, we did soul collage, where the kids made collages out of from their dream. They picked a dream and then did a soul collage. And you'll see that on my website too, how I work with soul collage. But sometimes it's movement. Um, I had this really profound dream a few years ago, and it was oh, what's another name for locust? You know,
Um, um, the grasshopper.
grasshopper.
Yeah.
That's it. So I had this dream about this grasshopper, and the grasshopper was in a box, and then it grew really big, and then it was my size, and it started dancing. I got it out of the box, started dancing, and to me in the dream it felt like, you know how the Balinese dances are, with a lot of movement, with hands and eyes. And so I started, when I was working with the dream, I started doing that, this kind of dance of the this figure. And it was that earthed the dream so much. And
Mm,
especially there was all the symbolism about the animal coming out of the box. You know, it was like I was coming out of the box, being more visible, and starting to do this dance. And then, besides dance, a lot of times when I'm working with a person and they use their hands, say, for example, there's a figure and they're doing this. So then we start looking at that and what is it that they're calling into their life that's really important. So every time they think of it, if they do that, what are they bringing into their life? So it isn't just the words, and it isn't just, but it's also the mannerisms of the dreamer, of the figure that's being dreamed, or it's the dance. Um, yeah, there's just a lot of ways that you can earth that dream. and
Mm.
remember it, and it'll come back to you, you know. Like for
Mm.
example, with the snake, if you think about the snake, what would be a motion or what would be something that you would connect to that dream?
It's mostly like this sort of, putting my shoulder up and moving my spine and just remembering how the snake sort of stood up a bit and looked at me, just like making my spine go up. Uh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and in so many cultures, the snake is connected to the spine. It's the kundalini, you know.
Yes.
Even in our Western medicine, there's a snake wrapped around the staff. You know, the
Yeah. With
snake is so connected to your spine,
hmm
which yeah, so even if you go like that, you can bring that back. Or when you start feeling out of sorts and overwhelmed, that, you know, you're you're back to that feeling that you had before the snake came. You can do this and bring you right back into that experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's like we said earlier, your body knows, you know, and the more you can integrate it with your body, the better, you know.
Mm.
I had a friend that I worked with a lot, and he had a lot of issues with his nervous system. And we would do soul collage and art, and he would do everything with dots. Everything was like separate dots. And as we worked more and more, and as he worked more in with art, he started to get away from the dots and started to connect them. And he's doing so much better with his nervous system than he was a few years ago.
Mm. Yeah, it's that, how the expression of certain things brings us back into more connection into our inside. Yeah.
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 And I know some of the people you have are going to be talking about breathing and how to do the resonance of your body. I learned something a week ago, and the person that was doing the facilitator, he had us doing in and out breath and connecting to it. And what he told us was on the on the in breath, we say thank you. And on the out breath, we say bless you because
Mm.
we're returning it to the. And if you can have that kind of flow just with your breath, thank you and bless you, half your work's done, you know.
Yeah. 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 Mm. That's very profound. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really profound for me because I always felt like I had trouble with breathing. I do fine breathing in, but I really have trouble letting go. But
Mm.
if I look at it as I'm blessing someone or the trees or the world, then I start to let that out breath go much easier.
Mm. 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 And more intentional with the breathing.
Intentional, right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
And back to speaking intentional about the reoccurring dreams. I know Stephen used to say, like, okay, your psyche gives you three chances. If you didn't get it the first time, you're gonna get it again, and you didn't, you're gonna get it again. Um, I always really like that, you know, that if you can go to bed and not only ask for an intention of, I want to remember this dream, but even asking that you will understand the dream.
Mm.
And then you don't have to have repetitive dreams. You got it the first time, you know, or the second time.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah.
some of the kids' dreams that were repetitive dreams were really gruesome.
Hmm.
I mean, there
Hmm.
was a lot about death and a lot about being bullied and, heavy stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
And yeah, so
yeah. And I know from my kids, sometimes the repetitive dreams are those where they can't run away or they can't scream, like they
right.
feel stuck.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's like a very disturbing repetitive dream. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and if I'm tending that dream, I might have them scream out loud,
Mm,
just
mm,
just so they know what that feels like.
mm, mm. Yeah, 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 yeah. Well,
Anyway, there's
this,
there's so much magic in this work that
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I can have this conversation forever. So, thank you so much, Gaby.
oh,
Yeah,
you're so
yeah.
welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, thank you. I really
Much
appreciate all your work and so important. Yeah,
okay. Much love.
yeah. Much love to you